love the seasons.
I do like fall.
I really,
I'd miss that, I think.
I love the seasons.
I would not trade it
I do
for
too. I really do.
anywhere in the West at the moment.
Guys, we have a couple seconds, just.
Okay.
Hello, it is 7 PM on, they don't have the date on here, but it's September 22nd, 2021. Roll call, please. Call the order.
Mr. Dobbins.
Here.
Mrs. Etter.
Here.
Mr. Naaman.
Here.
Mr. Suchaki.
Here.
Mrs. Schukert.
Here, 5 present, 0 absent. On behalf of the board, I would like to welcome all students, staff, parents, and interested community members to tonight's Board of Education meeting. The board values and encourages public comment on education issues. Anyone having an interest in the actions of the board may participate during the public comments section of the meeting. Please identify yourself on the board sign-in sheet, which is right outside the door. A copy of the board meeting agenda is available for review on our school district's website. Please silence your cell phones during the meeting. If we can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Moved by, who said that? I didn't even know.
Mr. Naaman.
Moved by Mr. Naaman.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Dobbins. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. Naaman.
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins.
Aye.
Mrs. Etter.
Aye.
Mr. Suchaki.
Aye.
Mrs. Schukert.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Next up, staff spotlight. Giving it to you, Mr. Evans.
It's my pleasure to present a resolution of the Board of Education. Whereas the Cuyahoga Heights School District has been fortunate to have a dedicated staff committed to the mission of the district, and whereas Angelo Bertolone is an enthusiastic, engaging, and fun elementary music teacher who instills an interest in music in all students, and whereas Angelo Bertolone's love of music is regularly evident by his singing in the hallways, playing instruments, and creating fun activities or games for his students, and whereas you can always feel and hear the excitement from the students when passing by Mr. Bertolone's music room, and whereas Mr. Bertolone's passion and positivity makes music class one of our students' favorite subjects, thereby instilling a love of art and desire to learn more about music, and whereas Angelo Bertolone is always smiling and willing to lend a hand to students and staff whenever he sees a need or wants to help improve a process, and whereas Angelo Bertolone's love of teaching and cheerful attitude sets an extraordinary example for both students and staff at the Cuyahoga Heights schools, and therefore be it resolved that the Cuyahoga Heights Board of Education congratulates Angelo Bertolone on his September 22nd, 2001 selection to the Cuyahoga Heights Schools Staff Spotlight. I ask for approval of that by the Board of Education.
So item B would be, can I have a motion to approve the staff spotlight agenda motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Suchaki.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Etter. Discussion?
I'm just gonna throw one other thing in. You know, we have won the National Association of Music Merchants Outstanding Music Community Award for 14 or 15 years, and it's a music community. It's a K through 12 effort, and Mr. Bertolone is such a important part of that. He does instill a love of music in our students, and it's fun. Kind of, he doesn't know, and I go when I do my walk around the building, I'll put my ear up to the room to hear what's kind of going on in the room. His is one of the classrooms I don't want to interrupt because I know he'll put me on the spot and make me sing in front of the kids, and then there'll be kids crying and all kinds of stuff. But it's one of those things where a teacher's enthusiasm spreads over into their students and his fellow staff members, and Angela is certainly that type of staff member.
Excellent. Well said. Roll call, please, Mr.
Mr. Suchaki.
Aye.
Mrs. Etter.
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins.
Hardy, yes.
Mr. Naaman.
Aye.
Mrs. Schuker.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Congratulations.
Come on down, Andrew, get a picture taken.
I love the one liner, the love of arts, that the children instill the love of arts. That's great. That's a good line.
Yes, good line.
I've never heard that before. Ten or 15 miles
You're on
away.
fire tonight, Mr. Evans.
Oh my gosh, that's funny too.
Next up, comments from the public, and we have one, Sean Deca. So come on up, and podium is all yours.
I won't need that long. Sean Deca, alumni, class of '93, resident of the Valley View, and currently have 3 kids in the school, a senior, a freshman, and a 6th grader. I believe the last meeting or the meeting before, you guys voted to retire the Redskin name, and over the past couple weeks, I've seen a lot of, it's really separating the district. People for it, people against it, and, you know, I understand that there's time for change and stuff. What I asked the board to consider is, let's let this senior class be the last graduating class as Cuyahoga Heights Redskins. We have an agenda now to get a new mascot towards the end of the school year. I think it would be a good way for the board to show that we do take what you guys, the community says, and understand that, you know, it did create some issues. But I think that if we allow this class to go out as Redskins and to bring in, when we get a new mascot at the end of the school year or you know, towards the end of the school year, make a big deal out of it. And, you know, have something at the football stadium and get all the community to come in and really do a big unveiling of the mascot. And I think that would put a lot of these negative comments on Facebook and the other social media sites and personal attacks on school board members, and it's just, it's not right, because that's not how Cuyahoga Heights is. And I believe that if we can come to that type of solution, or, you know, a commitment to allow this class to be this way, allow the kids of sports to do their Redskin Jacks for one last season for those seniors, and then knowing that the next year's class is gonna be something different, and they can spend time and come up with their new cheers and all that stuff. I really think that would make, it would be a lot easier for everyone, and I think it's kind of a win-win on both sides. I understand that the name needs to change, and I was a big advocate of not changing the name, you know, but then looking at, you know, the statistics and what we really said with that, and the different things that were derogatory towards the Redskin name, not so much in the word Redskin, it makes sense that we're in that time where we need to evolve and change with that stuff. Since nothing is really uniforms aren't being taken away because they have the logo on it, and the volleyball team shirts say Redskins on it, so the name's still out there this school year, so I think that it would be a good idea to allow us to continue to be Redskins this last year and make a big deal with when the new mascot is unveiled, because I think that is gonna be very good, and I think that will bring the community back together and not so divided as we want the Redskins, no, you know, 5 people made this decision, and it really isn't 5 people, it's you guys are the voice of the community, and I just think that it kind of was rushed. I think if we would have did it before the school year started and didn't start the school year, and then 2 weeks later we don't have a mascot. We were at a volleyball game, we were playing Maple Heights, and everybody's screaming "Go Heights," and nobody had any idea who was cheering for who, because you had Maple Heights and you had Cuyahoga Heights. And we run into that quite a bit. There's a lot of heights in this area for some reason of the state of Ohio. There's a lot of heights. So my suggestion is, I really feel that if we could just keep the name throughout the school year. We already know that it's retired. We're taking stuff down, the new school scoreboards in the gym, it looks very nice. I think that just, I don't know, I think let the seniors go out with a mascot and not have, or be Redskins, and then next year, start with the new mascot and start on a clean slate with the new school year. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Next up, we're moving to presentations, students of the month. Mr. Evans to give it off.
I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Janatovich.
As always, each month when I get here, I say this is my favorite time to recognize, the students that came through. I know this month of September, there's a lot of things going on, and a lot of the students couldn't be here tonight, but I'm going to at least say their name. If they're here, come up, I'm going to recognize them and go through that process. So first grade, 6th grade, I know Mom said she couldn't be here, but Sophia Harder is our 6th grade student of the month. Show up by any chance? Nope. 7th grade, Olivia Cusia, student of the month. And 8th grade student of the month we knew could not be here, Noah Tokar. All right, 9th grade student of the month, Lorenzo Amato. 10th grade student of the month, Hannah Flynn. Yeah. So Hannah was nominated by Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin says he's off to a great start in her class, makes great contributions to the class, tackling challenging problems in class, making class discussions rich. Sometimes doesn't always happen in a math class, but she finds a way to do it. Performing at an extremely high level on her assessments. When I talked to her about Cuyahoga Heights, why she loves it, she loves her friends, the atmosphere at Cuyahoga Heights, loves the fact that it's such a positive place. Biology and math are her favorite subjects. She loves studying life. She loves solving challenging problems. Share that her two favorite teachers are Mrs. Wojtek and Mr. Martin. Mrs. Wojtek, because she's super awesome. Mr. Martin, because he cares a lot about the students. In her free time, she loves to sing, but not in front of people. I told her I'm the same way. If you see me in the car on the way anywhere I'm going, I'm jamming to all different types of music. Hannah's an awesome kid. We're very lucky to have her here, and we can't wait to see what she does the next 3 years of her here at Cuyahoga Heights. Congratulations, Hannah, on being the 10th grade Student of the Month.
Yeah, I think so. I'm gonna ask him about that.
Our 11th grade Student of the Month could not be here is Elise Biggers. Our 12th grade Student of the Month couldn't be here, but we have a special guest in the house, so I am going to talk about him. Colin Decca is our 12th grade Student of the Month. Colin is a hardworking student, follows directions, asset to class discussions, positive, is thought-provoking in his class and day-to-day. Friendly, always in a positive mood, brings a quiet energy to the class that's always positive. When I talked to Colin, he talked about he loves the small school, he loves being around everyone, the atmosphere here is great. Loves going to sporting events, supporting his classmates. He's excited about his senior year and the opportunities that'll be available to him. We talked that he loves being outside, which he wants to be a marine biologist and go to Toledo to study that. Started talking about fishing. He likes grouper. Caught a 45-pound grouper. I told him about my story about catching a 67-inch, 110 tarpon. He said he almost had one of those on the hook. One of the coolest experiences. So enjoyed having my time talking to him about that. He's looking forward to prom and graduation. He doesn't want to rush the year. Loves football, loves wrestling, but he thinks those are going to be really cool events. So since his dad was here, I wanted to recognize Colin for being this month's Senior Student of the Month.
Mr. Janatovich, he wanted me to throw in, too, that he is a better fisherman than his father. He wanted that on the record.
We're gonna miss out. I have to bring the mic way down.
I'm very lucky because both of my students were able to come this evening. So we're going to start with Lily Mock. Come on up, Lily. Lily is a 9-year-old third grade student. She lives in Valley View with her parents, Sarah and Michael Mock, sister Ella, who is 13, and brother Mikey, who's 11. She has 3 dogs named Winnie, Lucy, and Oscar, and they are 2 St. Bernards and a Mastiff. Yes, I said 2 St. Bernards and a Mastiff. These are some big dogs, right? Big dogs at the house. And her brother has a fish and a tortoise, correct? All right. I asked her what her favorite subject at school was, and she said reading because she gets to bring new books to school, and music is her favorite essential. She likes to play recorders. She didn't mention about the teacher being her favorite. She just said that the class was her favorite, Mr. Bertoloni. When she is not at school, she likes to ride her bike and play with friends, and when she grows up, I know this will be shocking, but she'd like to be a veterinarian because she loves pets and loves animals. To her parents, she wanted me to say to you, thank you for getting me stuff for my birthday and other things, even during COVID. She really was appreciative that you did things for her during COVID. And this is what her teachers had to say. She was nominated by our AMP team, Art, Music, and PE, and they said, positive, hardworking, and creative. Lily exemplifies what it means to be a stellar student here at CHES. Over several years of having Lily in our classes, the AMP team has taken notice of the kind and gentle way Lily treats classmates, teachers, and anyone else she meets along the way. Lily approaches all things school-related with a glimmer of excitement in her eyes. You can almost see the creative wheels turning as Lily figures out just how she can make the most of her next learning experience. She doesn't follow the crowd, but instead has her own inner voice. This attribute makes her a lot of fun to teach. We are so proud of the student Lily is and the person she's becoming. Congratulations from Mr. Bertoloni, Mr. Huffman, and Mrs. Orlando. All right, next we have Dexter Shop. Come on up, Dexter. Dexter is a 10-year-old 5th grade student who lives in Valley View with his parents Hillary and Neil and brother Jonah, who is 7, correct? Okay, 7. His favorite subject is science because he loves the ocean and space. And his favorite essential class is PE because he likes running around, and I think that's really good. When he's not in school, he's doing things like the basketball workouts, swimming. He said he really loves to swim and ride his dirt bike. When he grows up, also not a surprise, he wants to be a marine biologist because he loves the ocean. And he told me that he has a goal of discovering a new type of animal in the ocean. We talked a little bit about when I went scuba diving, and he's been snorkeling, and he said, we said there are so many things deep in the sea that we haven't discovered yet. So I totally believe that you can do that. To his parents, I wrote down what I did the same thing that I have. Okay. Yes, he said, parents, I would like to thank you for everything you've done for me. He told me that today, but I forgot to type it in here, so thank you for bailing me out. I appreciate it. Dexter started 5th grade off on an awesome foot. He's a student who loves to learn and is often asking insightful questions about what we're learning in an attempt to discover as much as he possibly can. Dexter is engaged in his work, always willing to help out classmates and teachers, which his teachers very much appreciate, and is a positive role model for all those around him. He's a wonderful addition to our CHES family. The AMP team is so excited to witness all of the amazing things Dexter will accomplish this school year. Way to go, Dexter. Congratulations, Dexter.
Thank you. Up next, we have Pam Mead with the food service.
While Pam's making her way down here, we've got an outstanding food service group. Pam heads that group up, and later on in the meeting, you're gonna see, we're gonna approve some fees, and lunch prices are a part of that. And Pam's gonna explain part of the rationale as to why we actually have to raise our lunch prices this year to be part of a program. So it's all yours, Pam.
Currently, our lunch prices for our adult meals are not correct. So I have been instructed to use a digital tool, and it is called the food service director is required to use an adult meal pricing tool to assist in establishing a price for paid lunches. The tool provides the suggested adult lunch price. We cannot charge under the suggested price, but we can charge more than the suggested price. According to the tool that I have to use, I put in the current lunch fee, the free lunch reimbursable rate, is $4.32. And then I have to add in the current USDA food value, which is 0.3975. And added together gives a total, rounded up to the nearest dollar, which is $4.75 for adult lunches. This is a requirement that I have to do for the state of Ohio for the USDA. There's not much more to it than that, than just kind of putting in some numbers and it giving us a total. I have a few printouts if you need to see. I don't have a slide for presentation.
I think the board members have the attachment on their agenda, so they, yeah, they should.
No, that's good,
You should be able to
thank
see that, yeah.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it, and the kids are eating for free this year, so amen to that. We love that, so,
Pam,
yeah,
do you find more kids, like, do you find more kids
Kids eat for free.
getting school lunches than you have in the past?
Oh, absolutely. We would average
I think so, because of COVID.
here in high school and middle school, averaging over 220 Yeah, and same thing with the little ones across the way. Same thing. We're feeding about the same amount, 200 to 220 a day. The lowest we ever was 193, I believe, in elementary school.
Was that fish day?
To be honest with you, no, it wasn't a big score day for them, but, you know, we do the best we can, and keep telling them to give us ideas, though, because we need their ideas. You know, we're adults, we need a lot different than they do, so their input's super, super valuable to us. And I ask them all the time, what do they like? Hot dogs is like the #1 thing they want in the elementary, and they're out of stock, everything's out of stock right now, too. So I'm sorry about that, but I don't know from how much you're into the news and what's going on in the food world, but there are ships just sitting out with food in there, and there's no way to get them off. There's no manpower, there's no transportation. It's like that with a lot of supplies right now. We've been sitting for a lot of webinars trying to understand what we can do to still stay compliant for the state of Ohio to make sure our kids are getting good, nutritious, full lunches every single day. So, and our ladies do a heck of a job. I can't say enough about them. They are just amazing, amazing women.
Well, thank you for your guidance through that too, and helping them.
Yeah, so we love it, we love it.
Gets more difficult for Pam too, because the availability is tougher and tougher, so Pam's trying to keep some variety, and some things just aren't available, and the price, we've been forewarned that the price of beef has already started to go up, that by the end of winter, it's gonna just skyrocket. So thankfully, we have the free lunch program, but it also makes less available for our programs as well, so that she's gotta get creative with what she's doing down there.
Yeah, we're not the only school, and our high school, middle school students, if you have any here, could tell you the new lunch trays that we're using, they don't even have the partitions in them. They're just a tray with the sides up, because the trays are out of stock also.
Yeah.
So we're really struggling, so all the ones with the partitions in them, we have for next door, for the little guys next door, to make it, because otherwise, put their corns in the cold, and
We could open up the washable stuff and we could have students back there washing, doing the dishwashing, like in the old days, we now used to take our tray up and they were.
I know our school has gone to that because of it. They've gone to the washable trays.
Oh, wow. I hope it doesn't come to that ever.
It's a pain.
Increase some hours for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We will, so.
and the water bill will go up.
But thank you so much, and it is my pleasure to serve the public and your children. They're fantastic. They really are. They just their smiles when they come through for lunch, like, oh, so we're having today. It just makes your day. And I really hope maybe one day you can come through for lunch and sit with the kids and have lunch and get their opinions too, because they love that. I mean, we have our teachers' aides sit with them, and they really enjoy it. We can see that they get engaged with conversation with the adults when they come over. They really like it. So I hope to see you guys for lunch sometime.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Pam's a reluctant public speaker. Thank you, Pam. This was very painful for her to do. This is very she went through a lot of angst to do this tonight.
All
You
good.
did great.
We appreciate it, Pam.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, moving on to treasurer's business.
Thank you, Mr. Schukert. Couple of recommendations tonight. First one is 6A, motion to approve the minutes of the September 8th, 2021 regular meeting as found in attachment C1. Item 7A, motion to accept the bank reconciliation, financial reports, and payments for board review as of August 31st, 2021, as prepared and certified by the treasurer as accurate as found in attachment T2. Item 7B, motion to approve new vendors to the school district for W-9s attached as found in attachment T3. Item 7C, motion to approve purchase orders over $5,000 as found in attachment T4. And item 7D, motion to approve the permanent appropriations for fiscal year 2022, modified from the temporary appropriations as found in attachment T5. I ask for those motions for approval tonight.
Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve the treasurer's business consent agenda motions.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Navin,
Second?
seconded by Mrs. Etter. Discussion.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch base on a couple items. 7B, new vendors, we just have two tonight. First one is Laura Garrett, who is gonna be our best committee consultant. And number two is the Quorum Group, and that is for window film for the new library glass wall that we're installing in the media center. So what that window film is if you can picture the second floor of the media center, we're installing a glass wall. And if you're on the second story, people can look up from the first story. So the glass film is gonna be from about waist high down, and it's gonna be a film on the glass. So, people wearing, shorts, if I'm wearing shorts, the glass film's gonna be a protective layer. People looking down below. Next, we have purchase orders over 5,000, 7C, and we have two tonight. The first one is Colonial Oil Industries, and that's for bus and vehicle fuel. It's a blanket for $15,000. And the second one is CDWG, that's for 60 Chromebooks and management licenses. And that's for $17,569.20. And the permanent appropriations, we have to do a temporary one at the beginning of the fiscal year, which we did back in June 23rd for fiscal 22. And for everybody listening, our fiscal year is 7/1 to 6/30. So once the fiscal year starts 7/1, we have our temporary appropriations that gets us out of the gate. Legally, we have to appropriate funds in order to expense them. The county asks for us to institute a permanent appropriations measure by the end of September. So this is our permanent appropriations that we have. We're modifying it from our temporary appropriations. We only have two modifications. The first one is for Fund 007, which is an increase of $1,000 due to additional scholarships awarded. And Fund 300, which is our athletic fund, we have an increase of $25,000 due to additional athletic expenses for officials, purchase services, equipment, awards, and the Trinity Field rental that we have in place. And those are the motions I asked for tonight.
Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Naaman.
Aye.
Mrs. Zetter.
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins.
Aye.
Mr. Sujaki.
Aye.
Mrs. Schukert.
Aye, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Treasurer's discussions.
Just a couple items tonight. 9A, the 5-year forecast. So The time has come, quicker than I thought. Seems like it's right around the corner. So we have our November forecast, which has to be submitted to ODE by the 30th of November. And then again, submitted in May, so submitted twice a year. So for the presentation of the November 2021 five-year forecast, I have a timeline attached here tonight, and I'll just run through it. Number one, look to present to the Finance Committee the last week of October 2021. So we'd look to schedule a meeting that last week. Number two, November 3rd, 2021, at the regular board meeting that we have, which is a work session, we'd review the five-year forecast for the board. Number three, the BEST Committee. Perhaps the week of the 15th of November, review it with the BEST Committee. And number four, November 17th, 2021, regular board meeting, we would look to approve the five-year forecast at that meeting. I just want to get everybody's thoughts on that timeline, if it looks good, if you want to modify anything. Seeing everybody
The only
nod.
thing I would say, we talked about, just like the BEST committee, and now that we have Laura on board, you know, I would hate the first BEST committee meeting to be a mouthful of finances. Like, I just think,
Sure.
you know, just hearing where they're at, where their goals are, whatever she has planned, so depending on how quickly that gets up and running, like, the BEST committee review might not work in that timeline.
Yeah, I was looking at what we have attached for Laura Garrett, and if we clicked on the attachment down at 15B, she has her BEST committee meeting schedule, and there was just a rough outline of what she had in place in the week of November 15th. She had the five-year forecast update, so that's what I was thinking.
I did
She
not
was
see
already
that,
looking
Mr.
ahead to
Chair.
that.
I'm sorry?
She was already looking ahead to that.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
had Jim's previous calendar, so she was trying to spin off of some of the things that we had previously done. Laura and I, pending her approval, will meet this week and talk through some of that stuff.
So if it works, awesome. If not,
Seems
Push it off.
reasonable to me.
all right. So if everybody's cool with the timeline that we have in place, we'll roll with that. And
Just
Yep.
to revisit this, what we did in May, did we not combine finance and BEST?
we did.
Okay.
We
So
did.
That is another option.
Yeah, that's another option if we want to do it too. So.
Okay.
Which again, I just personally don't think that's a good idea. I mean, I think our finance committee, as I said before, has not really been active, but we have a lot of things on the horizon. If we're talking about a future levy, if we're talking about, you know, a facilities plan and things like that, and the finance committee is a board-run committee, whereas the BEST committee is a superintendent's committee. They're separate. Although they overlap in a lot of their things, the purpose of the finance committee is to talk about finances, come up with recommendations to share with the board regarding financial items. The BEST committee is a whole nother beast, you know, and again, I think with a new moderator, that could change a bit, like what that outlook is, and, you know, the BEST committee, I don't think was active at all last year with COVID. I would hesitate to recommend that we just keep merging those two entities, because I think that the purpose of them is very different. And I, again, personally would like to see the finance committee getting back on track, because we have not met at all this school year, or this year.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, we usually have it split out as we do right here for what we're looking at for the Finance Committee and the BEST Committee. So they're separated. I think it was special in May of this year, just with everything going on with the pandemic, that it just made sense to merge them both. So that was a different circumstance that we had in place for the merging.
We didn't merge anything. We presented at a board meeting and welcomed both of those
Correct.
committees to come to
Correct.
it.
Correct.
Which it wasn't a merged meeting, it was, because I think the thing is too, Mr. Muccio, is that you're presenting it 5 different times, which is pretty unnecessary, you know, so, you know.
No, I have it memorized by the 5th, so.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I have it memorized by the 3rd.
Yeah, and it's the same audience many of the times, so, again, you know, I think being efficient, especially because a lot of the people in the community that are on these committees have lots going on in their lives, and, you know, their dedication is appreciated, but I think we could work more efficiently with our committees.
I think the best committee is more of an idea committee and a future-oriented, let's see what's possible committee. And I don't see them getting into the financial end of it at all, frankly. Until, they come up with some plans, present them, then we can talk about financial implications of what the best committee is recommending. So I would not present to the best committee at all. I certainly could make them aware that there's a presentation going on, but I don't think I would invite them, and I don't think we should go to that meeting at all.
And that will probably be my discussion with Laura as well, with us just getting the best up and running again after being off for a year. There's a lot of things to be brought up to speed on that quite honestly, on their priority list, the five-year forecast, while we need to know what the finances are when we start talking about building projects at some point in time, that's our continuous improvement committee. So I think there's some, I think one of the beauties of the best committee is that Jim always stayed within timelines. So we, the meeting didn't turn into 3.5 hours. We stayed on topic. We got our objectives done for that evening, and that, I think that in a large part keeps people coming back to that, knowing that it's not going to become this overarching time commitment for people. Sean's wife, Jen's been on it for 6 or 7 years, and I think that she's said to me on a couple occasions, she appreciates the fact that she knows what the topics are. We come in, we get our work done, and then we're done for the evening, so it doesn't,
Yeah, and I think especially since they have not, we have a new director for that
Yeah.
committee, and they haven't met for a long time. Let's let the ideas flow, and then when that's done, then we can sit down and get financially realistic with them. So I would not present it all to the best committee at this time.
Gotcha. So how about we just eliminate number 3 and we'll just roll with 1, 2, and 4 as it stands?
I'd feel better
Sounds
about
good.
that.
I think maybe we could remind Laura or encourage her to invite the best committee members to the school board meeting when we're going over it on the
When it's being
17th.
presented.
Sure.
For the third, yeah.
'Cause it'd be great to
Yeah.
have 1-2 people in the audience,
some people in the audience
like
that- yeah.
Right.
more.
There's your notice.
You only count as one, Sean.
November 3rd.
November 3rd.
All right, so we'll roll with that.
Okay.
And 9B, I'd like to do this exercise to discuss the levies. So we have 2 levies on the ballot November 2nd, and I also have the 5-year forecast. It's a different look for the 5-year forecast because remember, ODE switched up their software, so no longer do we have like the single-page printout, but now I have to print it on 3 pages. I don't like the new look of it. But if we click on the November 2nd, and again, it's my hope that this comparison will provide us more guidance on our 5-year forecast regarding any levy, any possible levies that we have going forward. So if we click on the November 2nd, 2021 attachment, we can see on the second page the 2 ballot issues, and there are only 2, and it's for Independence and Strongsville. And for Independence, they're both renewals. So for Independence, it's a renewal of their permanent improvement levy, which is 1.25 mils for 5 years. And for Strongsville, it's a renewal of their current expense levy, which is a general fund levy, which is 6 mils. And that's also for a period of 5 years. So both 5-year levies, both renewals. One is permanent improvements for Independence, the other is general fund expenses. Independence is 1.25 mils, and Strongsville is 6 mils. And their 5-year forecast, if we were to click on Independence, there's not really going to be too much of an impact here for that levy on their 5-year forecast, because again, the 5-year forecast is the general fund. The only impact would be if that levy were to not pass. You would see their purchase services go up. And the third page, their line 15.010 is healthy. They're looking at 12 million between 2020 and 2021. Then they deficit spend goes down to 10 million for fiscal 22. 23 is 9 million, 24 is 6.5, and 25 is 3.5. Now they do have a renewal in 25, fiscal 25, and that's for their general fund that they have in place. So they have general fund and PI. We don't have a PI levy on our books. If they're at 1.25 mils, in that range, could be sufficient to us because we're like size of Independence. So if we're thinking about our PI levy, just to know that our neighbors down the street have a 1.25 PI levy, so if we're trying to get a good comparison. And if we were to click on the 5-year forecast for Strongsville schools, and this is a general fund renewal that they have. We can see their revenue starts to dip in fiscal '25, so that's line 1.010, general property taxes. It goes from 50-some million to 48 million. It actually starts in '24. It goes down to 52 from 55. And the very last page, if we look at line 11.020, that's the line where the property tax renewal comes into play. So we can see the line above it, line 10.010, is their fund balance at the end of the fiscal year without this renewal. And we can see that their fund balance still is about 50 million, so that's, very healthy. With the renewal, which is on line 11.020, you can see that the very bottom line, 15, what the fund balance would be with their renewal in place. So they're very healthy with the renewal. So 6 mills makes up, a certain portion of their millage that they have in place for all their levies. So it is important for Strongsville schools, and that's a 5-year levy for them. Again, we are all continuing levies. We don't have to go to the community every 5 years for renewals. So that takes away levy fatigue from us. So we're in a very good spot, in my opinion, by not having that renewal aspect going on. Any questions?
But when you go to a permanent improvement levy, it's not going to be continuing. It's going to be for a specific time, right?
We had actually talked, because of the age of the building, that it would be a continuing, but it would be an adjusted one, so it would front load the PI in the beginning of it, because you can have variable levies now, and then in the maybe third or fourth year transition it to a large portion of it to the operating, and still leave a certain amount in the PI. In an 86-year-old building here and a 65-year-old building here, there's gonna be continual permanent improvement needs for the upkeep of the building. So, and of course, nothing's definite, but what we had originally talked about previously was it's a combination levy that is PI and operating together, and you can adjust it. So let's say years 1 through 5, and I'm just gonna use 10 mils, even though it would never be a 10 mil, maybe 8 mils of that are PI, so that front loads money, so to do air conditioning and projects. And then after year 5, you flip-flop it, and you go 8 mils of operating and 2 mils of PI, so you have ongoing PI money as a source. That was one option, and as opposed to having 2 levies on, or levies 2 years apart, doing a PI levy, and then 2 years down the road, doing an operating levy. And people say, we just passed levy. The more difficult thing is people don't understand it, and that's incumbent upon us to sell that, to let people know. But, the PI can only be used for the physical things within the building, the structural things, buses, things that are gonna last longer than 5 years. It can't be used to pay electric bills. It can't be used to pay any salaries of any employees. That's operating expenses for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Evans, new business.
10, Superintendent's Business. 10A, motion to approve resolution and list of non-public transportation requests for 2021-22, authorizing payment in lieu of transportation when transportation is impractical according to the amount stipulated annually by the Ohio Department of Education. B, motion to approve overnight travel for teams or athletes who qualify for regional and/or state championships, if applicable, for the 2021-22 school year, contingent upon completion of the overnight trip form upon qualification of the athletes by the date specified on the playoff schedule. C, motion to authorize the superintendent or designee to sign contracts with OHSAA for the school district to be the home site for tournaments, if selected, and to approve the school district administrative designees to hire workers for OHSAA tournament activities when selected as a hosting school as needed throughout the 2021-22 school year. D, motion to adopt a memorandum of understanding between the Board of Education and Cuyahoga Heights Association of Teachers regarding Article 9 of the negotiated agreement for the 21-22 school year. F, motion to approve the attached list of 2021-22 student fees as recommended per the attached list. 11A, motion to accept the resignation of Yvonne Adams as Cuyahoga Heights School lunch monitor, effective September 9th, 2021. 12, a motion to approve Lisa Osborne as a student monitor lunch, 2 hours per day, step 2, paid at $13.39 per hour, and as a substitute aide, paid at the same rate on an as-needed basis for 2021-22 school year, contingent upon successful completion, BCI, FBI, fingerprint checks, and proper certification if applicable. 13, A, motion to approve Bev Didio, Jennifer Blados, and Mary McDermott as activity bus drivers on an as-needed basis for 2021-22 school year, paid at their hourly rate, contingent upon successful completion of BCI, FBI fingerprint check, and proper certification. And motion, B, motion to approve Nate Brick, Carolyn Douglas, Kelsey Mason, Johnny Roy as before, after-school supervision per contract guidelines for 21-22 school year. 14A, motion to approve Stan Durbin and Doug Amari to assist with test coordination for the 2021-22 school year, paid at the daily substitute teacher rate, contingent upon successful completion of BCI, FBI, fingerprint checks, and proper certification if applicable. 15, business agreements, contracts, and memberships. Motion to approve an agreement with the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio to provide communication services to the Cuyahoga School District for the 2021-22 school year for the attached agreement at a cost not to exceed $45,000. And B, motion to approve an agreement with Lori Garrett for the strategic plan consulting services and the best committee meeting schedule and for the 2021-22 school year at a cost should be not to exceed $15,000.
I was gonna say. Yeah,
I ask for approval of those motions.
At this time, I'll take a motion to approve the superintendent's business consent agenda motions.
so moved.
Moved by Mr. Suchaki,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Utter. Discussion.
The non-school public transportation request, the state legislature has almost doubled that cost for us, the payment in lieu, and we've always done the payment in lieu of transporting, so thank you to them for that. The approval of the overnight teams, as the board knows, this just gives me the ability to do on a short-term notice to kids that qualify for a district or state meet that we need to make arrangements for. So oftentimes, there's not a board meeting in between it because it's on a week-to-week basis, so we can go ahead and do that and approve those for those students and the coaches that qualify. Sign the contracts for the OHSA to be a home site and to hire workers. We have to follow all the OHSA's guidelines, but this gives me the ability to say that girls soccer, I'm certain we're going to be a host for at least one round of soccer, probably two, and depending on if the football team stays where they're at, we'll probably host a first-round football game. With the new alignment with 12 teams or 16 teams, we may possibly host 2 rounds if we're the higher seed before it goes to a neutral site. So this gives us the ability to do that. We follow, the state has a spreadsheet that we have to follow the prices, and we've kind of adjusted our payment schedule to line up with the state's more closely. MOU between the Board of Education and the teachers. We have a teacher that's teaching a 7th class. It's actually in this case, we don't put the name there, but it's the Woods class. We have Woods 1 and Woods 2 going on at the same time in the same classroom, so some of those kids are more advanced. It allows us to offer Woods 2 that we wouldn't have been able to schedule otherwise. There was no room in the schedule to fit it, so we do that on a kind of a one-time basis. It's more likely to happen in our elective classes when we're trying to offer some different things for students to get involved in. The student fees list. Last year, the board waived the student fees for classroom fees. The only fees that we charge are you see the lunch fees on there, and then the 200 account fees. So class dues, the National Honor Society, National Junior Honor Society, and then for replacement of anything broken or damaged along that. So we waived the science fees, the class fees, as we did last year during COVID as well. Yvonne Adams resigning. She's still a bus aide for us. Lisa Osborne, good employee for us before, stepped away for a while, coming back to help us out a little bit. Happy to have Lisa on board. Activity bus drivers, this is so we can bring back the activity run at 4:30. And we've got 3 there. We'll rotate those bus drivers through. That bus will run beginning October, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So Science Club in the elementary building, Science Olympiad wants to schedule a couple days to work with the kids. Those parents know that they have transportation home. It also helps out with maybe some middle school athletics a little bit, where the high school kids, a lot of them drive, so they can figure it out. But this helps us with maybe middle school athletics if they want to have a practice till like 4:15, those kids can still catch a bus, and that kind of relieves a little pressure from parents on sometimes making multiple trips up here. If you got a middle school or a high school, you're making a trip up early because their one practice is done, and you go home and drop them off, then you come back, or you're telling your middle schooler you gotta sit around for an hour and wait for your high schooler to get done. As those of you that have been here a long time know that, you know, we used to run 2 buses. It used to be a 4:15 and a 5:30 bus. I mean, but this, we have, we're committed to bringing back that activity bus. And this will give some opportunities for some after-school activities for some of our students that we really, on the social emotional end, we really need to do, so some kids can get back and start doing some of the fun things that kind of wrap things together for them. The before and after school supervision, this is just for teachers that, this is outside the regular contract, so if we need supervision, for instance, in here for convocation in the morning before the teacher's regular contracted time, maybe some bus supervision periodically, so that's in the contract, but you have to approve the people for that. The testing coordinators, Stan Durbin and Dick Seelong did this for many, many years. Stan's tried to tell me that he's retiring every year, I won't let him. Doug Amari, recently retired teacher, Stan's gonna train Doug to kind of help with our test coordination, so we'll keep those two, Ike and Mike, along here and try and keep them on task moving forward. But that's a huge help to us, and that's a huge, just as far as the scheduling and the coordination of our testing, that Stan and Dick Seelong did a phenomenal job with that. I think a large part of our success goes back to the fact that those schedules are done and our teachers know when and how and where it's gonna take place. So that's big for us. Communications agreement with the ESC. Charlene Paparizos, I know she's listening in out there, and Margaret Bierman, had a great conversation with them on Monday through Zoom with the admin team. They've already got the wheels turning. They've already got multiple stories written. They've already reached out. We established a news at CUIHTS for people to enter news stories and news, so my admins can do that, and from the outside that they can access, so they know they've got access to some of our websites, and working with us on taking stuff off of Tom Talks and shooting out items and articles on that. So Charlene initially was gonna help us find somebody, then she saw the potential. I think she kind of carved some time out to help us, and then brought on Margaret Bierman as a story writer. Margaret's got a long history of doing that, and very excited about what potential that might bring for us. And then Laura Garrett, we've been talking about bringing, you know, Jim's Whistler. Unfortunately, his health and his partner's health are not well right now. Jim's, we're gonna definitely have Jim back for a meeting in the fall here to make sure we recognize Jim. But he's, the key to the success of the BEST committee has been Jim's Whistler. The fact that it's been facilitated by someone outside the district that is not pushing my agenda or pushing a specific board member's agenda, that really, the beauty of the BEST committee, and the reason that the BEST committee was able to transition from that recovery from this technology scandal into a continuous improvement levy was because of Jim's leadership and guidance with that committee, and an efficiency in guiding that committee. When Jim told me that he was no longer gonna be able to do that, but would help us anyway, I started kind of going through my head who would be a fit for that. Laura has stayed connected. Those of you that know Laura, she was the middle school, high school principal here for some time. She was director of administrative services, spent her last 6 months here as the superintendent. Garfield Heights graduate, still lives down the road from us, still very connected, has worked with Finding Leaders and through the ESC and some professional development. So I think Laura's excited. When we sat down and had lunch and I talked about this, I think she was really excited about getting back in, because I think Laura, as much as anybody, misses being around kids sometimes. So the fact that she can come back in the building during the days, she's got nieces and a niece and 2 nephews in the building, so she's been a class reader for us on a couple occasions. So excited about bringing Laura back on board with that as well. So I asked for those items for approval. And if there's any questions on any of those things, I just kind of blew through it like I always do, so I apologize for that.
I would just like to say that I have a long history with working with Margaret Bierman as well, from my days at, in the media, and she was the communications person from Bedford Schools. So we had, from time to time, we would interact and set up stories together to do. And I think she's going to be a great asset to us in our communications plan in the district. We go even back further when we were part of an organization in the 80s called Women in Communications.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Suchaki?
Aye.
Mrs. Etter?
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins?
Aye.
Mr. Naaman?
Aye.
Mrs. Schukert?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Mr. Evans, comments?
Comments, the legislators are returning to work. Sometimes that's not good news for us in education. But a couple of the big things, and I'll forward some emails to you, and what I'm probably gonna do is try and have David Seed out here to talk to us. Once again, the property value challenges has come back up. If you think you've heard about that, we've heard about it at least 3 times before. That legislation hasn't made it through committee. It's been tagged out of some bills. It's never gotten through. The same gentleman that has tried to push that through is trying to push it through again. So it's tied to 2 bills right now, but I'll forward David's emails to you, and we'll try and have David in to talk to that a little bit. There is a push in one of the bills for statewide open enrollment. The lobbyists are not sure if that's gonna gain any kind of momentum whatsoever. The anti-critical race theory is in 2 different bills, and that'll be in hearings. I had on here, we're still awaiting ARF approval. We got that about an hour and a half ago before the meeting started. Matt got the email, so we can move forward with that. Some other things, the valve's been installed in the pool. We're in the process of adding flow monitors, so we can be able to monitor, know what kind of water we're putting in there on a regular basis. We're gonna test it. We're gonna dry test it with the current system, and then when we fill it, Matt, our swim coach, also knows some ways to do some testing when it's water filled. So we're gonna actually run 2 tests on it. We're gonna put we have to put a backflow meter in, but, so we're getting that going. Next summer when we drain it, we'll drill some holes and we'll evaluate those voids and see what we have to do with those. But just know that the long-range mechanical and structural repairs will have to be part of some kind of permanent improvement plan. But we're also gonna start to fix some of the superficial things that have been let go for so long. Some of the drains the chrome that rusted, and we're not gonna be able to get that done right now but there's a lot of surface things that could have and should have been done previously that when that pool gets drained next summer, we're gonna spend some time in that pool area, addressing some of those needs, to clean some of that up. Our district alarm system is outdated and I don't know any other way of saying it. It's causing some issues for us. The 2 o'clock calls from Minnesota from the little lady that can't pronounce Cuyahoga are getting somewhat bothersome with me. So we looked at one company we thought was gonna help, and now we've been very clear to them that we've got fire alarms and then we've got security alarms, and so we have 2 separate alarm systems, and so I was very clear that we would do those in phases, so we would do like the middle school, high school, elementary school for the fire, and then middle school, so that would be like a 6-year, because that's a big number, that's not something that we could just write a check for off the top. And they said that originally, the one company said they could, then they came back and said they couldn't, and they wanted 50% up front. We said no way, so we're looking at some other possibilities with some other companies to see what we can do on that. Our system was antiquated 20 years ago, and it's one of those things where it just keeps kind of getting pushed off, and we're gonna have to address it. And we're trying to avoid some expenses with this, because the problem with the fire alarm system is that when it goes off at 2 o'clock in the morning, the Cuyahoga Fire Department has to respond to it. They don't have a choice of not responding to a fire alarm at the school. So I've known other fire departments that begin charging school districts for the call out on a false alarm. Now, they have not done that yet. Mike and Howie were in a couple weeks ago, and I bought him coffee and was as nice to him as I could be. We're flirting a little bit with that. So our alternative, if we need to do something between getting them fixed and still having a problem, would be to keep a maintenance personnel on for fire watch during the evening if it got that bad. But Mike Suey and Howie have been really good working with me, but we've got to fix something. I think 2 weeks ago, out of the 7 days in the week, Mr. Zerbola and I got alarm calls five times that week, so. I was gonna tell you that we can't secure the air conditioning work in the elementary until the state approves the expenditure of the grant funds. Well, that grant fund just got approved, so we'll circle back around and work on the air conditioning, trying to lock that price in for the elementary building. And they were very emphatic with us that those prices are gonna change very, very quickly, as they are with everything. We talked about some of the food sources price is changing. So, Matt and I will circle back around with GPD and start that process. We're working with GPD. The roofing project that was delayed due to lack of supplies this year, once we took a look at the contract, that price is only locked in for 60 days. So our fear is that if we get it done this year, that the price is gonna go up exponentially. So we're trying to bring that group in to say, what kind of price, how long can we lock it in for? We want it done, again, as soon as our building empties in June, we want them in here working on it, because it can't be worked on during the school year. So we've got to revisit that problem. The October 6th meeting, Mr. Young will lead that meeting. Mr. Janitovich and Mrs. Housen are going to present on foreign language immersion in addition throughout the district. And Mr. Young's also going to talk to you about some transportation software. The mascot survey will go out in October. I put the criteria in Tom Talks last week. I'll repeat it this week. I kind of like some of the things that actually Sean had to say tonight, but we can talk about that a little bit later. But that gets us, and I've already got eight volunteers have called in. Sean knew he was going to be on it because I told him he was, but and it looks like a pretty good mix. Some of them I recognize, some of them I don't recognize. And then we're also going to have staff. There's a couple of staff that have already volunteered, but I also want students involved in that for a couple of reasons. They got skin in the game too, and adults tend to act better when students are in the room. We found that out with Best, so we're going to get some students involved in that as well. This week, the Hall of Fame committee met. A year and a half ago, we had selected members, never called them, and COVID struck, so we didn't do a Hall of Fame induction a year and a half ago. We reached out to those 6 members. Those are the most fun calls to make because they're, I leave a message that said, please call the superintendent of Cuyahoga Heights. I'm not going to know what kind of response I get.
Can I share with you? I got one of those 6 nominees contacted me and said, why is Mr. Evans calling me? I don't even know him personally. Why is he calling me? And I'm like, I don't know. And then he said, I got inducted,
So that's fun. We're gonna actually do it at a basketball game. We're gonna do it in between games at the La Bella tournament. It's a Friday, December 17th. So that's a little change of approach. We've always done it at football games, but we got the new scoreboards up. It'll be a nice night. And I think also we're gonna recognize the girls softball team at a basketball game once we get in the winter for their state runner-up title. We're redoing the banners in the gym at this time as well. So that'll take place on December 17th, and looking forward to that. I'll get some more information out on that as well.
You say in January.
January 8th for the softball.
Softball, I knew that was coming. Okay, good.
The girls are still in town from break. So
Yeah, that was, we wanted the girls back to, some of the seniors back for that, so.
That's good.
Thanks, Mr. Jantovich.
I have one question on the pool. I know there's some work to be done there. It's my understanding that after all these studies and analyses have been done, that what I'm understanding is that the bulk of the costs to bring that up to par, so to speak, are above ground, so to
Yeah.
speak. They're walls and insulation and things like that, HVAC,
Yep.
and not necessarily the pool itself. That's based on what we know at this point.
Right, and that's
Okay,
really,
great.
for us to, quite honestly, for us to replace if the valve is the major source of the leak, when it's all said and done, for us to replace the valve, put a new backflow and some other meters on, that will have cost us, I think, in the end, under $2,000 or $3,000. When we're talking about the walls having vapor barrier put in, moving mechanicals from inside outside, we're talking $250,000 and up dollar-wise. So that's why I said those structural things are gonna have to be part of a permanent improvement levy moving forward, whereas the things that we can do now, we can do internally. It was nice that we were able to replace the valve internally, that our maintenance staff did that, and also fixing some grates and replacing grates and taking care of some of the rust on there, and even replacing some of the tiling on the deck that's coming off, are things that should have and could be done every summer. And we're gonna start addressing some of those needs.
Okay.
Post
Thanks.
haste.
Yeah, a parent had asked me about
Yeah.
kind of the status of the pool and some of the rumors were going around, and that was my take on it overall, is that there are more expensive problems above ground than below ground, and based on what we knew at that point.
Yeah, and I tried to address it in Tom Talks
Oh,
a
yeah.
couple weeks ago. There were a lot of rumors flying around about, the pool was gonna be a helicopter landing pad and all kind, it was just all crazy like it always gets. So I just wanted people to know that we're committed to at this point in time, committed to keeping the pool, and we're gonna fix it, and we're gonna have a swim team, and there we go.
That's great.
That was a mouthful, that was like,
Do you need a water?
yeah. something good.
Yeah.
All right, next up, item number 18, the board policy and bylaws review. Are you doing this? Am I doing this? It just, I mean.
Just a second reading.
I'm going through.
As I mentioned last meeting, really what I was majorly concerned about, since so many of the other aligned with previous policy, was ensuring that the bylaw was, that everybody was in agreement with that bylaw and the options that were chosen.
For public participation at board meetings.
I've heard nothing since the first meeting, so we just assumed that we were going to go with what was presented.
Anyone have any questions on those board policies? Hearing none, there's nothing to vote on, correct?
No,
Vote on the,
we have to vote.
on the policies. Second, this is the second reading, this is the approval of the policies.
Jeez. It's been a long day, guys. Okay, so at this time, there's no questions. So can I have a motion to approve the board's business consent agenda motions?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Babich.
Second.
Second by Mr. Naaman. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. Dobbins.
Aye.
Mr. Naaman.
Aye.
Mrs. Etter.
Aye.
Mr. Souchaki.
Aye.
Mrs. Schukert.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Next up, board discussions. So I think this is the individual board member discussions or comments.
Correct.
Anyone feeling like they would like to start?
Sure.
Go for it, Mr.
Nothing.
Evans.
Thank you. So I wanted to thank the Alumni Association and Mark Chase and his group for a very well-organized and well-attended alumni cookout this past weekend. I also had the opportunity to tour our bus garages. It's probably not a tour that too many board members get, but Mr. Blightos invited me to see what he does and how he does it, and it was very informative, and he has a lot on his plate, figuratively. And his commitment to what he does, essentially mirrors what I heard from Ms. Mead this evening. So it's nice to hear that everyone is as committed to keeping our students safe and healthy and well-nourished as he and Ms. Mead are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Souchaki.
Nothing this evening.
Mrs. Utter?
Nothing really. I was like what Mr. Janatovich said. The Students of the Month is the highlight of the meeting, so next time maybe we can even hear about the students who aren't here, because I kind of missed out on that today. And just congratulations to our homecoming court, and hopefully we had a great time at homecoming.
I don't know if you heard this, we have 310 students in the high school, 280 were at the dance. We had 280 students, now I know there was a couple outside kids, but that's incredible. And that's the biggest numbers that I can ever recall being at a dancer at Cuyahoga Heights. And Mr. Janatovich, I think he let the students use the photo booth. I saw many pictures of him in the photo booth, but I didn't know. It looked like, and actually Sean came and helped set tents up so we could do it outside. And it was just, thank Mrs. Dragon and Mrs. Zawatsky for their work in pulling that off and doing it outside. And it was much needed. And as I told Mrs. Schukert, I talked to several superintendents today, and they were talking about how student activities, plays, concerts, the numbers are just way up because kids are just dying to do something with their friends. And what better place than here at school? I think that we know that it's safer, more wholesome, and better here on our grounds than other places. So if there's anything positive come out of this nonsense for the last year and a half, I think that's something very, very positive, that our kids are really kind of jumping back into a lot of these things, so.
Anything else, Mrs. Utter?
Yeah, if you put me on the hook, I'll think of something, but I think I'll pass today.
Mr. Naaman, you're up.
Yeah, so first things first, I would like to, congratulate Mr. Barlon, too, is the music teacher, and actually, the award is so well-deserved. I know my kids had him, through their years here at Cuyahoga Heights, and so it's outstanding. He's a great teacher. Kids loved him, and so I thank him for everything he does for the district. Congratulations to all the students of the month, those that weren't here and those that are here too as well. Saw a lot of the homecoming pictures. Looked like a fabulous time. And I guess, like you said, it was well attended. It's great that everybody's getting out there too as well. And so, lastly, I hate to bring this up, but you know, it's like you know, over the past 19 months and over, you know, the last, say, month or so, I mean, I know that some of the board members have really been, you know, personally attacked and also threatened for our properties to be damaged and et cetera. I mean, it seems like we lost a lot of, you know, civility, tolerance, understanding, trust, you know, list goes on and on and on. And it has divided the community. It really has. But, you know, I guess I'm kind of really disappointed in that because, you know, I think us as a community, we've, you know, it's like board members are basically human. We have jobs. But, you know, those attacks, I mean, they really have to stop at this point. I mean, I'm really, it's getting really old. It's getting really tired of that happening. You know, and I guess that, you know, going a little bit further, you know, I understand that, you know, change brings out emotion, you know, and basically change is how we evolve as a society. And so we have to always remember that because that's what we're kind of talking about here. We're going through change. And that change is sometimes really tough. But, you know, I like, again, the attacks that happen, the personal attacks and the threats, they need to go. You know, I understand that people have their you know, rights to freedom of speech, but those are actually drawn at basically slander and also the, you know, words to incite violence. And that's where the lines are drawn. You could say and approach us, I think anyone on the board here, you know, and as long as we act civilly, we'll answer any questions, we'll talk through issues, but I mean, some of the things that have happened, I think we're going over the line. And so that's got to really stop. So unfortunately, I have to bring that up here, but you know, I think that's all I have to really say.
Thanks, Joe. I'm just going to echo exactly what you said. I don't have an eloquent speech written or thought of.
I didn't either.
And the more I talk, the more I'll probably not say good things, so I'll just keep it up there what Joe says, and I agree wholeheartedly that, you know, I'll speak on behalf of myself. I'm doing the best I can for this district and the kids in it.
You know, the other thing is what we forget, like with all of this stuff, is like a lot of good that's come out of even the last 2 years. And like, you know, as we're looking at how we're getting through these hard times with COVID and cultural change and everything, what we're really forgetting about though, and what's we're overlooking is that we're in an A-rated school district that has award-winning teachers and great administrators that basically is being totally overlooked at this point. And we're focusing on other things that really in the end, basically the kids are still getting a great education here. And all the other stuff that we're dealing with is not even educationally related. And sometimes even the board members are being put in those positions to actually make those decisions that probably should be made somewhere else. And actually, you know, we don't have medical, you know, expertise. You know, we're not medical doctors up here, but we're having to make those decisions on public health decisions, which is kind of unfair in some situations. So, anyway, sorry.
No, you're good.
And I would just add that I had a professional learning committee meeting today with about 30 superintendents, and everything that you folks just talked about is going on in every other school district, and the same frustrations. Board members essentially volunteer a good portion of their time for service to the community, and a lot of these issues over the last couple of years have divided communities. And my point that I made with some of the superintendents was that, you know, we normally have such a unified community, and I said this to a couple of legislators at some point in time, we're gonna have to ask for a levy, and the divide was not caused by us, it was caused by outside factors. And that's unfortunate, again, because of all of the good things, and the mascot discussion came up with my colleagues too, to think that what we've gone through with that, with all the other big ticket things that are going on right now, trying to educate kids remotely, trying to get kids in buildings, trying to keep kids healthy, that becomes such an overbearing and overriding discussion, sometimes is frustrating. So it's unfortunate, and it just is, you know.
Great.
Great.
All right, I'm gonna moving on to future agenda items. Do we want to add, I know you talked about this, but to talk about the Capitol Conference, were we gonna do that?
Yeah.
In October, like at the next, the
Yep.
work meeting? Okay. So everybody, and I'm saying this out loud to remind myself, like, try to do your homework and look at those sessions for us.
I'm trying to drop it into a spreadsheet so you can just,
Ooh,
if I share the
fancy.
document, you can just check next to the ones that you want to attend at a different time, which is the way a lot of conferences do it.
And we've done that before, too.
you know,
We prepared the numbers.
Okay.
This might test my Excel, but
Any other future agenda items?
Well, I just was thinking how we were talking about how everyone's excited, the kids are excited to get back to the activities that they missed out on. I kind of miss that we didn't get a chance to do the senior citizens dinner.
And that was, you
And
know,
so I was thinking, is
we,
that
we had that,
possible?
we had that discussion amongst the admin team, but because that age group is such a vulnerable group with this, that we thought maybe one more year of a pass on that, and I wanna, thank, I had a group of moms come to me, and meet with me this fall to say, we'll help in any way possible, but we want, it's mostly senior moms, we want this senior year to be special for our kids, and we know that there are things that are going on, but we will do anything and everything we can to help with activities, to bring back activities, to create new activities, that in itself just tells you that, you know, where we're kind of going. And we've brainstormed as an administrative team about some other things that we can do and what can we do to, for some things for the kids. We did talk a lot about the senior citizens dinner, and quite honestly, just because of that group is so vulnerable, that we thought about passing on that for one more year.
Question,
Shoot,
could we maybe deliver them meals?
that's a
Because
great
we are
idea.
rock stars at putting up those signs. So if we divide and conquer as an admin team and a school board, maybe, you know, if they wanna sign up for meals, we can still,
I'm in.
I'm into.
I mean, it's a good idea, I just wish we could do the in-person thing.
Right.
Maybe not now, I mean, we did it all, every fall we did it. And I understand the COVID time is still tenuous out there.
Right.
So maybe the spring.
And I've had to explain to Mr. Muccio, because he comes from the land where they don't want senior citizens to vote on levies. I said, we do at Cuyahoga Heights, because
Yeah.
our senior citizens support, you've heard me say 100 times, if you wanted to, when my mom was alive, if you want to start a fight with an 85-year-old woman, say something bad about Cuyahoga Heights schools in front of her, she'd been rolling on the ground with you. But our senior citizens come out and they support us. And that dinner was our way of saying thank you and
Right.
getting them back in the building, and maybe we can do something this spring, we'll see how this thing rolls itself out. We won't take anything off the plate, Mrs. Etter, quite honestly. We can, if we get some weather, maybe we can do something outside that's doable, but we'll keep our options open with that. We certainly want to be able to say thank you, and we're still thinking about you to that group of people that have been so supportive of the district through the years.
Absolutely. Okay, wait, I clicked the wrong thing, sorry. Item 22A, it should be noted that the Board of Education members received their agendas several days prior to the actual meeting. Thus, they've had considerable opportunity to study it, ask questions, etc. Upcoming meetings, 7 PM Wednesday is October 6th, October 20th, November 3rd, November 17th, December 8th, all in 2021. At this time, I hereby move that the board adjourn to executive session pursuant to ORC Section 121.22 G6 for details relative to the security arrangements and emergency response protocols for a public body or a public office, if disclosure of the matters discussed could reasonably be expected to jeopardize the security of the public body or public office. Can I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Souchaki. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Schukert,
Aye.
Mr. Souchaki,
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins,
Aye.
Mrs. Etter,
Aye.
Mr. Naaman.
All right.
Motion passes 5-0. It's 8:18 and we're in executive session.
No action will come
No
out.
action will be taken. Where are we?